Alright guys, and welcome to this live stream. And today I want to hold a live stream about DOPA, or it's basically diffuse uncharted alopecia. And DOPA was something I had back when I was in my early 20s. And basically in today's live stream I want to break it down and show you the pictures, what happened during that time, and how my hair loss progressed, and what happened afterwards when I had solved DOPA and I got other problems like DHT issues on my scalp, and I also got inflammation, dermatitis issues on my scalp, and how did it affect those areas that I had basically having a DOPA in the past. So it will be a quite short live stream because I was originally planning to make a video about it, but I decided that it will be more practical to just make a live stream of it and show you the pictures and break it down. And if you have questions, then you basically can ask them directly on the chat. So, all right, so let's get started. All right, so basically this is my situation back when I was having all my hair. This was back in when I was around 15, 16 years old. I had a thick and beautiful hair, I would say, right? And my sides was very thick, and basically overall thickness of the hair was quite awesome, right? This is my situation at that time. And basically what happened next is that I started to live for myself, and my diet became worse. And I was not eating healthy at all. I was basically eating a lot of fast food, and I was lacking micronutrition. But basically, the DOPA is something that can happen because of several reasons, like just to break it down for you guys. And basically, it can happen because of poor diet, like I had back in my 20s, and also because of vitamin D deficiencies or other vitamins like B12, for example, as well, possibly also iron, right? So possibly folate, zinc, those also can affect. It's not just the vitamin D that can affect and cause DOPA, but in my case, it was vitamin D. So, and also hormonal imbalances. And basically, by hormonal imbalances, we're not talking about DHT, but we're also talking about other hormones like hormone cycle in, for example, thyroid, in, for example, adrenal glands, for example, like those also can affect and cause DOPA. So if they are out of balance. And same is, for example, if there is stress-related issues like stress-related hair loss, it also can cause DOPA. So there are multiple reasons that can cause it, but in my case, it was mostly because of poor diet and vitamin D deficiency that it happened. So basically, this is my situation, 15, 16 years old. And what happened next is that I started to having a thinning on my sides. And this was a situation of me when I was around 18 years old, 2 years later from the previous picture. So here is one more, right? You can see basically how fast it progressed, like it just a couple of months later, basically, thinning on the sides. A strange pattern, right? And the strange pattern is quite unnecessary, right? It only happens because I had poor diet and nutrition deficiencies regarding vitamin D. And here is again one more picture. Right, it's around the same time, right? It was a couple of months between those pictures, so but you can clearly see that things are thinning out on the sides, and most likely it also triggered male pattern baldness for me as well. So here is one more picture. Again, you can see that you get kind of strange pattern around here on the sides. It's almost like a patchy hair loss. And basically, this was a worst point what I reached with DOPA. As you can see, it was quite serious. It also affected my temples hairline area as well, but especially on the sides, it was thinning out quite rapidly. Right, you can also see something going on here as well. And I was actually not aware of how bad the situation was at that time, because at that time, basically, we didn't have smartphones, so I had to take a picture with a camera. When you take a picture with a camera, so you have to basically go and get actually a physical picture out of it, right? And it could go like 3-6 months before I could see it, right? And basically, it was a couple of months later when I actually saw how bad my situation was on my sides, right? Because when one looks in the mirror, one usually looks at his face, right? And doesn't look kind of on the sides. And when I did see it 2-3 months later, it was basically winter, I think in 2004. What I did is I went to the doctor and he prescribed me, or he did take analysis, blood analysis, on check my vitamin D levels. And he prescribed me large pills of vitamin D, basically, so that I had to take it weekly. And after around 6-7 months later, this is what happened with my hair. This is 2005, and you can see that basically I was able to have a nice recovery of the sides, and also some good recovery on the temples and hairline compared to the previous picture. Right? So my sides basically was solved after I addressed my vitamin D deficiency and improved my diet. So basically was two things I did. After doctor visit, I basically started to improve my diet, started to eat more vegetables, more fruits, because before I didn't have those things in my diet. And I started basically to take vitamin D, and I started also include foods that are more rich in vitamin D, like tuna. At that time, I was eating out of tuna fish in the box at that time, and I also was eating out of sardines. Right? So basically, those are vitamin D rich foods, right? Because the thing for me was that the reason I got vitamin D deficiency in the first place was that I was working a lot of inside without sunlight, and also I was studying. I was studying for basically my secondary school, and I was not kind of outside in sunlight either, right? And especially in Norway, there is not much sunlight even in the summer. So basically, poor nutrition and also poor diet and lack of sunlight basically caused vitamin D deficiency in my case. And this is basically my sides when I had long hair, right? Just to show you how I was able to have nice recovery from the DOPA problem, right? And it never returned. Basically, just kind of break it down, right? Basically, this was situation, right? Timeline, right? From this stage to this stage, it went around 1 year and a half, possibly. I would say like 1.5 years before I got from this stage to this stage here. So it was quite quick progression. Right? But I was just kind of not aware how bad situation was. And the recovery also came quite quickly. It did take around 6 to 8 months to get to this stage here for me on the sides compared to this one here. And as you can see now, my sides are basically good. All right, and just to show you a few more pictures, and basically this picture here is of me having nail pattern baldness. Right, so those pictures here was because of because I was having a poor diet, nutrition deficiencies. But this one here is basically because I was having DHT issue on my scalp, right? And you can see that I started to thin out more and more on my basically on my diffuse thinning on nail pattern baldness areas, right? But sides was okay now, right? This was around 2006. This picture is taken, and sides was okay, but I was thinning out on top part. So. And here again, this is a picture like right before I think it started this. I was on finasteride at this stage, like for one month, I think, or 2 months. And basically, you can also see that my sides was good, right? It was only top part that was thinning out, right? So basically, I was able to fully recover from DOPA, right, on my sides. But the only problem was, again, new issue with DHT related hair loss, nail pattern baldness on my top area, right? I was thinning out at that time, but sides were okay. Here is one more picture around that time. Again, sides are okay, but you can clearly see that basically I had diffuse tissues on my temples and hairline, right? That was thinning out, but sides was solid. And here is basically my results after 4 months of finasteride. And I have shown this picture before. So if you want to kind of look into my finasteride timeline, you can check out other videos on other live streams I have made about it. Basically, again, you can see that sides was okay. Right? There's no issues on the sides anymore. Its only issue was basically on my top, like a top part, right? And of course, this is the first results of finasteride. You can see I started ticking up the hair temples and hairline. This is basically first results of taking for 4 months. But basically, again, sides was okay. And here's a few more pictures. Like this is my, I would say like a 6-7 months results of finasteride. Again, sides is good, and top is also improving. And this picture from when I was having scalp inflammation, the dermatitis problems in my scalp. And basically, again, I was having issues on top part, like my scalp on top was thinning out quite fast. I had to cut my hair short because I was just not able to handle all the hair that are falling out. It was too much, so I had to actually cut all my hair short to basically be able to kind of function in everyday life, to not kind of see hair everywhere. And again, sides looks good. right? It was only the top part that was affected by dermatitis and inflammation in my case, right? But the inflammation dermatitis can affect sides as well, right? But in my case, it was mostly, it was just on the top, crown, hairline, temples that was affected by inflammation dermatitis. So this is 2011. This is actually 2012. And basically what happened here is I had started to get a control of my inflammation dermatitis. Of course, my hair had got quite a lot of heat because of it. But again, sides looks good. There was no issues with the sides. And basically after this picture here, a couple months later started to show my inflammation. This is a picture from 2015. And again, if you want to check full timeline, you have to watch all the other videos. In this video, I basically want to focus on DOPA problem I had back in my 20s and what happened afterwards. And here again, this is from, like I said, 2015, summer 2015, and the sides are solid. And this is basically when I was able to kind of recover my hair, and I had the recovery by adding minoxidil back healing for about a year and a half from this stage. And here's again one more picture. It's the last one actually. And again, you can basically see that the sides looks good, and no issues there. Right? So basically, point here is that if you first find out what is causing your DOPA, you can recover from it and keep basically, as long as you don't get the problem again, keep the hairs there. Right? They won't fall out. Even if you have a male pattern baldness, even if you have inflammatory issues, as long as they are not affecting the sides, as long as they are going on the top part, it still will be okay. So just to show you an example here. Okay, guys, I can check up questions you've been asking in the chat because, like I said, it will be just short presentation today about my DOPA story. And basically, again, just to kind of summarize it, DOPA can happen because of couple of reasons. It can happen because of poor nutrition or poor diet, nutrition deficiencies, for example, vitamin D deficiency, B12, zinc, iron, folate. And in my case, it was vitamin D that was the main problem, but my diet also was poor on other vitamins, minerals as well. But doctor prescribed me was vitamin D. Other things that can cause DOPA is basically hormonal imbalances, like thyroid problems, and also adrenal glands problems. Those things also can cause DOPA relative hair loss, and also stress can cause DOPA relative hair loss, and possibly also, like for example, if you are having dermatitis or inflammation on the sides, it also can cause hair loss. Right? So basically, those are kind of factors that one has to look into if hair are falling on the sides or, for example, on the back as well, right? Because the thing with DOPA is that it's not, it doesn't have like a specific structure, like for example, male pattern baldness that happens on the top area, right? DOPA can happen on the sides, it can happen on the back, and that's the kind of problem, right? All right, guys. Another thing is that basically, if one is having the DOPAs and basically blocking DHT by phenylalanine, it won't help much because it doesn't have so much to do with DHT, right? It's DHT doesn't affect the sides. So, like I said, if the sides falling out, then you have to check out other possible angles of the hair loss. All right, let's check out the questions you've been asking here. Let's say Brooke says that, hey, I love your content. It has helped me a lot. Awesome. Always happy to hear it. Hello, Alex. Can I use topical dutasteride? Yes. Again, this is a one way to address DHT. Let's say question about how do I join my program. You need to basically schedule a call with me. You can do it in the link that I have on below these videos. Question about, hey Alex, do you fast a lot? And how many times a week, month do you do it? Basically, I do intermittent fasting, and basically what it means is that I have 2 meals a day. For example, if let's say I wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then I have my first meal at 3 p.m. Right? So I wake up at 8 a.m. and I have the 3 p.m. first meal. So I have basically not eaten anything for 7 hours, and afterwards, around 8 p.m. I have my second meal. Right? And those are big meals that I have. Second meal I usually have after I have done a workout. And fasting, when it comes to fasting, like when I was having scalp inflammation, I did fasting, right? Because I had to clean up my system, I had to do detoxification, all this stuff. But nowadays I don't do it like that frequently anymore. Like I do it occupationally, like from time to time, possibly let's say once every 3 months, right? But because the thing is that when you have a control your diet and you understand what is problem, what could cause this issue, then, or inflammation, for example, then you don't you don't have to have those fastings anymore that frequently anymore, right? It's only when I was having inflammation that one has to be much more into it, have a good structure about it, and actually implement fasting or other things like intermittent fasting, for example. So, question about this fish oil good for fighting inflammation? Yes, again, it depends on what kind of inflammation one is having, because fish oil contains fatty acids. Like I personally take omega-3. I prefer it better because it's omega-3. And fatty acids are important for your skin. So if your skin lacks fatty acids, then basically it's more easy to kind of start to have inflammation, right, and worsen skin conditions. So let's see. Next one. How can I know what is causing inflammation for me? Again, you need to basically check out possible angles, and usually it is dietary problems that is causing inflammation. It is basically something that possibly, again, it could be on your scalp environment that is causing issues. It can be possibly some fungal problems there, some infection for some, right? Some dermatitis. Right, so basically you need to kind of troubleshoot and find out what is most likely cause of inflammation in the first place, and then you can solve it. So let's see. Next one, Alex, I'm taking the dustread and do minoxidil twice a day and take a good here. I don't. Do you think I should add anything else? You can always try to optimize, right? And again, like basically it kind of depends on what is causing your problem in the first place. Like for example, when I started with blocking DHT back in my like when I was 24 in 2008, basically what happened is that I was able to have a nice recovery, because at that time my only problem was DHT. And if your only problem is actually DHT, then basically what you're doing now is taking the dustread and blocking DHT by that one, and applying minoxidil to stimulate hair regrowth, and doing ketoconazole to address microinflammation and some fungal angle, then it can work, right? If there is not any other issues, then basically you should be able to get quite decent results by doing it, right? But if there is something else that is going on, like for example, I mentioned earlier on this live stream about nutrition deficiencies, then basically you still will need to address it more, right? So there is always some things that can be optimized, right? So if you want to have best results possible, then you basically need to address it from all possible angles, right? But again, for some, if the only problem is actually DHT, then blocking DHT, you can get the results, right? The same as, for example, if there is, let's say, only microinflammation is causing issues, or a fungal problem, so it's causing hair loss, then again, taking or applying ketoconazole shampoo will help that issue, and the hair loss progression will stop soon. All right. Question about what is your option about cooping the head? I haven't tried it, and again, like thing with, for example, massage and possibly also cooping is that basically what it can kind of help is possibly clean up lymphatic system. That can be possibly helpful for some, but again, it kind of depends on what is causing hair loss, right? If it's the DHT is causing hair loss, then most likely cooping or scalp massage won't be enough to solve it. So. And we have here Mohammed writing that he had been using finasteride for the last 6 months, but it was recently, at least my hair fall is due to vitamin D deficiency. I started using pills for the past 3 months and saw huge results and hair regrow. Yes, by the way, Mohammed, you could also write what kind of amount you actually were taking on what type of vitamin D pills, like what is the structure basically? Was it the same structure like I had, like once a week, or was it more frequent? So, because I see that you had, from what you wrote, have quite fast recovery regarding it. So. And okay, you're actually asking the next question, can I start taking finasteride and minoxidil now? Again, it's a bit hard to say, like, because the hairs that are growing out, they have to complete the cycle before you can tap down those things, and you have to be sure that there is no DHTs that is causing a hair loss in the first place, right? Because in my case, like, I had a vitamin D problem, but I also had the DHT problem later in the time. So basically, for you, for example, one possible angle would be to kind of tap it down on them over time and see what happens, but not tap it down both of them, but one of them. For example, if you have completed your growth cycles, and minoxidil could be something you could tap down, and you can also possibly start to microdose of finasteride, right? Decrease amount of you're taking on a daily basis of it. So. Question about do you think there is link between obesity and hair loss? Yes, definitely. Like when I was having when I was overweighted, my hair basically were looking worse, and also I was having a lot of skin problems that was causing scalp issues. And so there is kind of multiple pathways that obesity can cause hair loss, right? So ideally we should kind of optimize everything and make sure that there is no possibility that hair loss can happen. Question about hair loss: are you using any topicals expect minoxidil for growth stimulation? No, I just use minoxidil. So like a couple of days ago, I posted a video about one guy who had results from the workbook, and basically he was not using minoxidil, he was using essential oil mix to stimulate hair growth, and in his case it did work, right? But for me, I have always used minoxidil because my scalp is very reactive, so if I apply oils on it, it often can trigger bad reaction for me, so I have to be very careful on what I apply on my scalp, and the minoxidil has been okay for me. So, let's see. Question about what are the ways to control some of the side effects of finasteride, for example, with regular exercise and natural testosterone supplements. Again, if you are having side effects from finasteride, then basically it's always best to try to first of all check up your hormonal levels, but also most likely to possibly into substitutes like topical finasteride or dutasteride in that case, or possible natural DHT blockers, right? Because if there is side effects, there's high chances they won't go away even if you take small amounts of it. So, Neil writes, can you stop using minoxidil eventually? Yes, you can, right? But you have to complete the cycle of hair growth. You cannot stop it like if you start using minoxidil and you have good results after 3 or 6 months, you cannot stop it because hair are very dependent on minoxidil and they will fall out. So you have to kind of continue applying it until those videos here, until those kind of new regrow hair has become permanent hair, right? Terminal hair, and then you can slowly decrease amount of minoxidil application, or you can tap it down of days you apply it. So over time, right? And this is important that you do it over time. You actually plan it out and not stop right away. So Rian writes, I also made a Zoom open with you this Sunday. Awesome. So we speak soon. Let's see, next one here, Alex wrote some finasteride. Neosteroids on body. Like again, finasteride can have several sides that can be a problem for some, right? So if one is kind of worried about possible issues, then one has to look into substitutes, right? Because again, there are nowadays a lot of different things one can use to either block DHT or address this problem from a kind of different angle, right? And one thing, like I mentioned previously, basically is to look into topical applications of DHT blockers. Okay, Mohammed, I see you wrote that you were taking vitamin D 2000 daily, so okay, all right. Question about this dutasteride is safe. For me, I didn't like the dutasteride because it did cause some minor side effects for me, so I got back to finasteride. So I don't think it's that safe. For me, finasteride has been safe, and the dutasteride worsened my and side effects from medicine. A question about, have you ever taken oral minoxidil? No, I haven't. When it comes to copper peptides, yes, I actually did take or apply copper peptides on my scalp back in like it was 2012, I think, second half of 2012, and it fired my inflammation, so it caused inflammation from it. So I haven't tried ever since. So. Arpit says, does your book deliver to India? Yes, it's a digital book, right? So you basically just download it and print it out afterwards. So you can get it in India as well. So. Is 0.5 financially effective everyone as you? For most, I would say it is, right? Again, it's kind of depends, but it kind of depends on your DHT sensitivity, on your DHT levels, but I would say for most, it is actually enough with 0.5 of finasteride to have results in stopping hair loss progression and possibly taking up some here as well. So. 1 second. Question about, does the hard water cause inflammation in the scalp? Like, it doesn't cause inflammation by itself, right? What happens is that it causes that if your scalp is inflamed to begin with, then it will worsen the situation, right? That's the problem. Like, if you don't have any issues in the scalp, then basically hard water possibly can cause some dandruff, right? But that's all, right? It won't be a big problem. It's only if your scalp is out of balance that it will be a problem. So. All right. I will answer 2 more questions before we end today. Let's say, for example, a question about, hey Alex, I have a mix of mental imbalance or telephonephilium. What should I do? Like, again, if you have a mental imbalance, then you have to address it by addressing the DHT angle. And if you have also telephonephilium, then you have to solve that problem, right? And make sure that it is solved and it doesn't come back again. So, all right, and I can answer a question about inflammation. Does dermatologist need to confirm whatever you have inflammation? Yeah, like, again, basically, if you notice that the shampoo doesn't, or the scalp doesn't feel good, right? It just feels the scalp is having itchiness, tension. There is possibly some acne pimples on the scalp. There is possibly redness. A lot of itchiness, right? Too much sebum production, right? So those are basically signs there is inflammation, right? And of course, it is possible to have a scalp biopsy from the dermatologist, but you should be basically able to notice that there is something wrong in your scalp, and it will give a sign that you have to address it. And last question before we end today, which shampoo is good for make good scalp? Because my scalp is having inflammation, oil, and dandruff. Like, again, I personally, when I was having inflammatory issues, I was using Revita and Region for the, for example, Nizoral was too harsh for my skin. Like, when I was having my worst inflammation back in 2011, I did use Nizoral. Like, I did use 2% Nizoral, but it was quite harsh for my skin, and it did basically unbalance my scalp even more after I kept using it. So for me, Region has been okay. Revita with the previous formulation was also okay. I haven't used Revita for last 5 years, so I'm not sure about it, but Region should be okay. So for you guys who want to basically have a schedule call with me to know more about my program, here is a link for it. I have it here in chat now, so you can use this one here. There should be some spots available for this week and for next week as well. So if you want to basically have a solution and find out how to solve this problem, do schedule calls. All right, guys, thanks for attending, and we speak